You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
What time frame we talking about as far as beginning to end of this whole PFAS thing?
Well,
it's 3M, it's the government involved in that side, and of course a lot of lawyers and a lot of people who got sick because of it.
Yeah,
we're talking like 10 years less.
It's been close to 10 years now. But
it's been close to 10 years already?
Yeah.
To start this process?
Yeah.
Man,
well, it all had to do with EPA changing some guidelines back in 2016, and so for 9 years now, the community here in El Paso County has been aware of the heightened risk. I mean, it's a risk that they've had for decades. It's just now became aware just how toxic their water was, and it's not the only place in the country that was exposed to toxins in their water because of this firefighting foam.
Yeah.
So this litigation is really complex. It involves a lot of moving parts. The first trial involving a person because of their physical injuries is set for October, and the judge is really keen to try to get this case resolved. So, will
that open the floodgates then? As far as once you get some kind of official verdict on one of these cases, does it all kind of follow the order? Or are we still talking years of litigation? And
no, they're trying to end the litigation. So that
just
these companies,
kind of like a one and done thing.
That's the idea. So these companies that have the money to actually resolve the cases have that certainty that they're not going to have to face just a trickle of cases coming in after that. But not every physical claim somebody has can be attributed to the toxins in the water, and the courts really tried to narrow down the from 6 down to essentially primarily right now 4 injuries, for lack of a better word, 4 diseases that they think the evidence is strongest to connect the toxins in the water to the injuries. And if there is a settlement, it will likely involve, my guess is, those 4 injuries.
And those 4 are what again?
Well, you've got kidney cancer, testicular cancer, liver cancer, ulcerative colitis, and thyroid disease. Those were the 4 strongest cases right now. So, and we were in court a couple of months ago analyzing the science behind liver cancer and thyroid cancer, but it's not clear whether the judge is going to expand the litigation to include those as well. So, listen, I think that there is going to be some conclusion at some point to this. We're obviously hoping it's sooner than later. This community has been through this for 9 years now. And keep in mind, the people who've been involved in the litigation here in El Paso County over the last 9 years, it's because of exposure that they probably had for decades. So this was not a one and done kind of thing. That unfortunately, the people in El Paso County, and not every part of the county, but primarily in Security and Widefield and Fountain, where they had the true exposure levels, we're dealing with this for years, for decades. So, we're just proud to be a part of it. But goodness, we just hope we can get some kind of positive resolution for everybody.
All right. Well, we were talking earlier, Summer's like, I lived there. When I was pregnant, I was drinking a gallon of that water a day when I was pregnant years back, and not the only one.
Well, and listen, there is evidence that links it to preeclampsia and some birth defects too. So, the problem right now is making sure that we have the right scientific evidence to continue to support a case beyond just saying, there are links to it. But then you get to these legal thresholds that have to be met in order to get a defendant to say, we recognize we have a real risk here at trial, and so we'll settle the case. If they don't settle, this first case starts in October, and then there will be a series of cases that follow from that. And it's kind of a tally sheet. How many did the plaintiffs win? How many of the defendants won? And you work to try to still get some kind of global resolution. That's ultimately the outcome in these cases. If they're not completely thrown out, there is almost always some type of a settlement.
Man,
and it's not going to satisfy everybody.
It's that corporate mentality. How do we take care of as many people as we can, but charge us as least as possible?
Yeah.
It's all numbers. We're all just numbers, I tell you. Well, wish you best of luck on the adventure there, man, and hopefully it's not another 10 years. But I think we've learned over the years of doing this segment exactly how, that's the long joke, but it's real, how slow the wheels of justice turn sometimes.
Yeah, they do. They grind.
Especially some of these slam dunks. That's obvious cause and effect. Let's wrap it up. 10 years later.
And we've officially put a pause on taking new cases too, because the judge really wants some level of certainty about how many unfiled cases there are, how many new cases might be coming down the pike, because people are getting diagnosed every day.
I was going to say, so let's say, someone who's fine now finds themselves 10 years later dealing with one of these four or whatever they decide are going to be the end game for exposure to this foam. Is this something that the statute of limitations is going to end, and by 10 years from now, be like, well, I'm sorry, you should have been something before you were sick.
I'm hoping that there's going to be some kind of a pool. There will be an ongoing claims process, so that there will be certain money set aside for people who have developed the condition recently.
That are set in this litigation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So
if a year from now you find out, but keep in mind, I mean, it's still going to require having been exposed to it. And, there's not this acute exposure risk right now in El Paso County. They've worked really hard to clean up the water. But it's for people who had been exposed over the years who are now just developing those conditions.
So we'll continue this conversation, I'm sure, in the future. By the next time we have you, I know they pushed the thing this week, but by next month, will you have a trip out east under your belt?
It depends. Yeah. I mean, we've got court scheduled for early next.
But they might be able to.
I have other trips planned to the East Coast. I just end up having to travel a lot for work, and then my kids are actually right now at camp out east, so I'm going to get to see them next week.
Nice, pick them up. I can't believe summer's almost over.
Yeah, you know who's upset about that? My kids. And every child in America is really upset that summer's coming to an end. I speak for all kids when I say,
Yeah, sorry, children. It was not our fault.
Yeah.
All right, we could do it. If we could fix it, we definitely would.
We would have fixed it when we were kids because we tried.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
But the CEO who was busted at the concert, snuggling up on a side action, who was also married and also the head of HR for the company. So since then, both have lost their jobs. But the band started posting notifications at the following shows saying, hey, you're on camera, keep that in mind. So that, I guess, moving on would legally clear the band from any problems. But is there anything that someone like that could do to the band that outed? I mean, the old F around and find out, I think comes to, you don't take your side action to a concert in front of 30,000 people. It could be problematic. So you shouldn't cheat on your wife or your husband. It goes back to that, I guess. But where legally speaking does this whole thing sit?
It captured my attention as much as it did everybody else's.
Because of the legal angle of things, or just because of the scandal of it?
Social interest element of this, and just the absurdity that you would do something so dumb.
Dude, like the next day baseball games were doing it. They were doing recreating it with catch cam, and people were just
the Philly fanatic and his side piece.
It's hilarious.
Listen, I think that anytime you go to a sporting event, a concert, almost always the purchase of a ticket involves a waiver of certain claims that you have in it.
That's what I thought. That's what I had said. I was like, hey, we've heard that. We've had this before. Lift tickets, concert tickets, other waivers you sign before you attend stuff.
Listen, what you're doing too when you buy a ticket, you go to one of these events, is you're acknowledging too that I might be captured on camera too, because they're promotional videos that they'll do for their own marketing to even make money on. To say, come to our next concert. This is how much fun people had at our last concert, and they'll show all of these different things. But when you go on and you are in an environment, an arena, you give up a certain expectation of privacy when you go to an event like this, especially an event where you know that you might not have known it when you walked in, but as soon as you were there and you saw that there are jumbotrons, they've got cameras panning into the crowd, that is par for the course, right? You've already essentially waived that right to any kind of recourse. When you purchase the ticket, you're on notice. Further on notice when you get in there and you see all of this. And if you're just going to be there hugging your side piece while this song is going on, keep in mind, there are other people with cameras too. You might get caught on somebody's random selfie too.
That's what I was going to say. So if you remove them from this stadium where they paid money to go to and watch this band and place them, let's say, in a public park, same deal, right? If someone's just filming a beautiful day at the park for the news intro and happens to scan across you, pawing at your HR head, it's the same deal. You're in public, right?
Yeah. And so the only question is, what is your claim? And this is why the lawyer in me is curious if they were going to make some kind of a claim. Would it be against Coldplay? Would it be against the concert promoter? Would it be against the facility?
I think anyone who attends a Coldplay show should be persecuted and punished to the full extent of the law. That's just me.
I'll tell you what, though.
That's just me.
I used to live in London, man. That Coldplay was big. They were.
Well, that's because they have nothing in London. They got no teeth. They got no jobs. Their pets' heads are falling off.
Oh, They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. So what they do is, maybe they find some claim, like did it harm their reputation? These are all, listen, whether or not they were having an affair, there is a factual element to this too, which is that they were embraced in each other's arms. That is just a fact. That was witnessed by everybody. Now, what the intent behind it, who knows? And I think Chris Martin even says either they're having an affair or they're just really shy.
Yeah, he was joking around.
He was joking around, but guess what? Those are factually, it appeared that they were shy at a minimum, right? So to have a claim, for example, defamation, for example, and if you're a public person,
what was that? What was the
defamation?
In defamation.
Not in defamation.
Just defamation.
Defamation.
And what's the difference between defamation and defecation?
There is a mild difference and involves two different parts of your...
All right. I'm being stupid.
I know you're being stupid. Then I started to give like a legitimate answer. I'm like, well, let me explain what defecation is.
Me.
So, Ross, but when you have things like libel, slander, any of these claims that involve publishing, broadcasting some kind of information that it ostensibly harms somebody, their reputation, for example. One of your best defenses, if you're sued for something like that, is the truth of what it was that you said or that you broadcast. And so, in this, he said somewhat tongue-in-cheek, either they're having an affair or they're shy. Well, what was shown is a fact. That was just visual. We all can see that. We can draw our own inference of what was taking place behind the scenes. But I just don't think that there's a solid claim. Doesn't mean they won't make one, but I don't think there's a solid claim there.
I would assume by now, if there was something on that bone, they would already be servicing a lawsuit.
There was something on that.
It made me kind of like the fact the band started the post, and then they might have done that just to kind of jump on the hype.
Into it. Yeah. I think that's part of it too. And listen, also, just from a human perspective, like as the band, I don't. Coldplay doesn't strike me as a malicious kind of band, right? So
I think they're evil.
What is it with you and Chris Martin? Did you try to cohabitate with him and it just didn't go well?
He was my dad for a little while before he left my mom.
All right, well, fair enough. I can see why you're bitter. But, look, saying, a little tongue-in-cheek, we're playing into the cultural zeitgeist that is this whole experience, but also saying, look, guess what? Just if you don't want to be caught doing something you shouldn't do, FYI, we're going to pan to everybody. You might be on our little jumbotron. Yeah. So
keep it on the down low.
Just beware,
Keep it on the down low, Maybe you take your date out instead of a concert to a remote part of Antarctica.
Yeah, you have a greater degree of privacy in Antarctica than you would at a Coldplay concert.
The further north you go, the less the population is for it, the safer you and your little relationship are.
How many husbands were just denied a hall pass to go to a Coldplay concert in the wake of this?
Probably
no, honey, you're not going.
Probably a lot of them. Oh, man. All right, so I sent Josh an email.
Yes. What did he say?
He hasn't responded yet. So I'll tell you what, you want to take this Dave guy? We can call that Dave guy.
I want to talk to him. He's got so much juicy stuff.
Dude, he does, but it's kind of weird. Is it me or is his questions both kind of odd? I think Dave needs to focus more on Dave.
Dave wants to focus more on Dave in a banana hammock, but that's not
troubling.
This Dave.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
All right, let's talk about the... his neighbors.
His neighbors first?
Let's hear about the neighbors.
All right. We had one coworker, Dave, come in to me yesterday and say, you need to ask that guy, why is he always looking into these people's house then?
I'm not looking into their house. They just leave their blinds wide open for everyone to see.
So it's just really obvious. It's hard not to look at their place?
Right. And even if we want to go out and just look at the stars or the mountains, go outside with our dogs, it's impossible to ignore what's going on in there because lights are on, blinds are open. It's full view for everyone to see.
Dave, is anything indecent happening? I mean, are they putting on a show for you? You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, they put on a show for you. See anything extra weird?
Emphasis on the X.
Like a fans only page?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be careful.
No, nothing that entertaining.
Okay. All right.
Otherwise, he wouldn't be complaining.
Well, no, I know. It's just like, bring the lawn chair and a cooler. And
I live next to Margot Robbie, and she's constantly walking around with the drapes up naked. It's annoying. Can I sue her, Mr. McDivitt?
Yes, we'll take that case.
So you go on to say
straight to discovery.
They're lazy, unemployed stoners who play endless video games. Wait a second. Are you my neighbor, Dave?
No.
Windows over, weeds overgrown.
Neighbor,
go ahead.
Yeah. The other neighbor, houses are probably, 4 or 5 feet away. And again, he sits blinds open, full view. I don't know why, but playing video games, and it's just
is it loud?
It's not loud. It's just like privacy issues.
Yeah.
Just do you do your thing, but close the windows. I don't need to see what you're playing or what you're doing on your computer.
Your email goes on to say that they play weird homemade story games. Are they LARPing?
LARPing. This is what I'm thinking. They got
LARPers next door.
Yeah, I guess that's what they're called. Yeah.
And so
the third set of neighbors, they do some weird
sword play,
role play stuff.
So for people listening, LARPing is the live action role play, and it involves people typically using swords. I mean,
they're
not trying to really kill each other, but they're
throw my fireballs at people.
That's right. They're role playing these action games. And we've had people call in before talking about that, as far from actually just legal protections and things like that. But so you've got people LARPing in the front yard. You said it involves adults and children. Is that what your concern is?
Yeah, that's a concern. Yeah, it's full-grown men with children that are not theirs. Like if it was father-son or father-daughter, it'd be one thing. But it's like kids that are brought in from around the city from, I'm assuming, their parents to play with these adults.
Is it like a LARP?
Fest.
It's a summer LARP camp. It sounds like somebody's hosting a LARP camp.
Honestly, this sounds like wildly entertaining. I could get all my streaming services canceled.
Is this a licensed LARPing summer school? That's what I want to know. And Dave, we're trying to be a little tongue in cheek here, but I see what you're concerned about.
So the place next door is a virtual crap show. So Dave's question is he able to sue the impact for my mental health, robbing of joy and inability to use our backyard to relax and entertain? I'm curious too, because I live next to a couple sisters that often just go nuts on each other. So we're sitting out back, and then they get a 45-minute scream fest where they're just.
We're not talking about Margot Robbie here?
No, totally not. Far from it.
Okay.
Far from it. But it's like, it is tough when you're out back and it's like, I'm just trying to enjoy myself. And you guys are screaming F-bombs and things, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to kill you. No, you get out. And so, yeah, what ramifications? I mean, obviously people, they're on their own private property, but what can this guy do?
A few remedies. So, yes, they're on their property. But if what they're doing corrupts your ability to enjoy your property, you may have a claim. Now, there are a couple of different things you can do. Number one is it can be reported as some kind of an ordinance violation, whether it's a barking dog, and it really depends on where you live too.
But is there an ordinance about keeping your windows blinds open?
Typically, it would only involve, and if it gets to this, the light emission. Is it somehow impacting the? There are certain light ordinances, and again, depends on where you are, and it may not cover this. And these are what I would call, violations of city ordinance. I mean, I don't want to call them criminal in that sense, but you're going down a code where you would have code enforcement involved, as opposed to a civil claim that you would have as a private landowner against the person who is causing this disruption in your enjoyment of your own property. Now, again, I don't know that the LARPing, we all have different tastes, right? So what you can tolerate versus what Ross can tolerate versus what I can tolerate might all be different things. And so the law has to try to come up with a baseline of what that threshold will be. And so for many things in the law, it is what is a reasonable person's expectation, right? So would a reasonable person find that people playing in their front yard is a nuisance of some level? And probably not. Right now, I think it's the kind of thing where if you're concerned about some impropriety? I mean, are these adults, doing something they shouldn't do with these children? That's a totally different thing, and that's where you get law enforcement involved. But from what you've said, it just sounds like the adults that are nearby are providing some kind of a game environment, and kids want to participate, and the parents are comfortable with that, and I'm sure they have private agreements in place to explain what they'll do with the kids. I have no idea.
Dorky, but it's not illegal.
And so because I really want to be careful that I'm not offending the LARPing audience out there, because it is,
I'm sure they got thick skin. I'm sure they heard it all before.
Okay, I'm going to if I seem particularly sensitive about this, it's because my mom doesn't even remember this, but when I graduated college, I got a sword as a graduation gift. What? I really wanted an Excalibur sword. They used to have these stores at the mall.
I remember.
Razor's Edge
maybe you're right, something like that. Or like Thor's hammer stores.
No,
it was the best thing in the
It was awesome.
Dude, Chapel Hill's Mall. I remember it very well. And everything was so expensive. I remember probably bought a throwing star. That's all I could afford back then. But like, sword, you got a sword?
I was really into Highlander, right? And so I had some buddies in college, and this was in the mid-'90s, and everybody, somewhere in the late 90s. But
just
anyway,
whatever grad needs.
We're totally. I'm sorry, Dave. We've really gone off track. But I did an honors thesis. Yeah. I did an honors thesis on Arthurian literature, and it's the connection between the Crusades and Arthurian literature and poetry, and how it all tied together with the parable of the Holy Grail. And as a kind of a reward for all the time and effort I put into it, my mom said, okay, I'll buy you that sword that you've been asking for. So I had for a long time a sword hanging on my wall in like my early 20s. I never used it. It wasn't the kind you would take out and go LARPing with, but it was on my wall. I thought it was really cool, and the hilt was a little loose, and I no longer have my sword.
Where'd it go?
I don't remember where it went, but I know it was wrapped up in a blanket. I was moving around. But anyway, so we're off topic, but I did have a sword.
So you got a little fun place for LARPers.
A little soft spot for people who are out there. I've never LARPed, but I've hung a sword on a wall. Now, Dave, back to your legal issue here. Yeah, you might have a claim here. I don't know that what you were talking about is going to get to a level where you're going to get any kind of true recourse from this. I mean, I think a code violation may be your best. I mean, if that dog is barking, talking to your neighbors, I know it sometimes can be an uncomfortable conversation, but that can sometimes yield the result you want more than trying to file a lawsuit, because it sounds like you'd want to sue 3 different people. And by the way, another question is there a homeowners association here? Because they're going to have certain requirements of, whether you can park on the street at night, or whether you have to have blinds, like when you can have your blinds open and the light on. I mean,
do they rent or do they own the place? Dave, do you even know?
As far as I know, everybody owns, and there's no HOA.
Yeah. Could you now we're getting off legal and just trying to come up with the practical. Is there any way you could put up a faux hedge even so you couldn't see the window of the guy playing video games, and is it the same house where the video games are being played that you can see, and then that family, or the couple or whatever that is not doing anything they shouldn't be doing?
I didn't think about that. That is all one home, right? Or you just live in a crazy neighborhood?
The neighborhood's taking a turn.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Got LARPers over here, peeping Toms to the left. So where does he start then if he wants to follow through with maybe a light complaint or the Department of LARPing? Like, what's the first step?
Yeah, you can call the city and just say, listen, here are the things I've identified that I think might be code violations. Ask them to, have code enforcement look at it. That's assuming you're within, municipal city limits. And the other thing that you can do too is you can contact a lawyer who deals in private nuisance complaints. And I mean, listen, I don't know off the top of my head a lawyer who does that. Doesn't mean I don't know a lawyer who does. I just don't know that they do that, if that makes sense. So I would, my suggestion is to go online and look for somebody. You just Google private nuisance claim Colorado. And it's a good place to start, because it'll outline, what the threshold is for some of this.
Well, I know a guy in the dark web, his name's Barry. He specializes in swatting. You ever look into that?
Okay, do not do that. Here we've gone from LARPing to swatting. I got to cut it. Do not swat.
Hey, close your windows or someone's going to get swatted. All right. Well, good luck on that front, Dave. And then the other side.
He's got another question.
Yeah, didn't realize it was both from you. What's with your deal with the women's swimsuit question? What's the end game for you, Dave? Your question, have you ever noticed how a woman's swimsuit can be a little revealing? Yes, I have, Dave. Yes, I have. If a man were to be equally revealing, would that simply be creepy or protected under the same equal opportunity laws? David?
All right. Are we ready for this?
McDivitt, go for it.
Did you know that in Colorado, generally, that women can go topless in public?
Really?
Yeah.
With no ramifications? I find that hard to believe.
Listen, if you've got, this came from a case out of Fort Collins about 6 years ago. But there's this whole, it's called Free the Nipples, this whole movement to try around the country to make it more acceptable and to eliminate laws, ordinances that prohibit women from going topless. Now, this has nothing to do with below the waist because there's a medical definition of genitalia which does not involve breasts.
Okay.
So,
and that's been invoked rather, in regards to these folks who are throwing sex toys on the courts at WNBA games. These people are facing public indecency fines and other stuff like that because they are throwing basically genitalia onto the court.
Right. And so public indecency laws in Colorado, for example, really don't now cover women who are topless. Now, there are, I've got to be careful. I'm not just saying there's this blanket, you're allowed to do it, but I mean, yeah, in public spaces, you can go hiking. If it's not in a private area, yeah. This came from an ordinance that said men, didn't have to wear a shirt, but women did. And let's see, we can get into the whole legal discussion that went on with this. By the way, you want to get some creative reading in, and you don't want to go to the adult bookstore, start reading Supreme Court decisions involving nudity and the description of a woman's breasts and foreplay. I mean, it's unbelievable what you can get by just reading Supreme Court decisions and the dissents that go along with them.
I'm sure most of them are written by Clarence Thomas.
Listen, so bottom line is, yeah, you can't, the revealing things that we're talking about, like a thong, for example, a man can wear a thong as long as it's not revealing the genitalia. And again, if we're talking about at a pool, is this a municipal pool? Is it a private pool? You go to a country club that has a pool, they're going to have certain requirements for what people can and cannot wear that and their standards may be a little different legally than in public at a municipal pool. But, you'll see parades sometimes. This has been, essentially legal for 6 years. I cannot think of one time where I have seen somebody, taking advantage of that law or the lack of that law. And so I think there was a huge stink at the time about whether this is going to be open the floodgates and people who feel uncomfortable if they see a naked or half-naked woman, would it cause, that the defendant said it could cause traffic problems because people would be distracted when they saw.
Dude, dumb guys, man. We're very easily distracted. But it comes down to it's not the people you don't want to see topless. I learned that as a young man. I got to go to Hawaii with the parents one time, and we're on Maui, and one of the beaches there was a nude beach. And I was like,
this is going to be awesome.
I'm going to say boobs. And it was a traumatic experience for young Ross Ford. I'll tell you that. I'm just leaving it at that because it's not the people. You don't see a young Pamela Anderson stumbling around naked. You see your grandma.
I did go. I went to Las Vegas one time where they had a pool. You could pay extra to go to the topless pool. I'm not saying I did. I'm just saying there was a pool there, and I think it was a little bit more like what you might have thought.
Like I could see a Vegas pool party.
That's Vegas.
Vegas pool party. So what was the turn? What brought that question to the front there, Dave? I want to know the back. I want to know the origin story of that question. Are you looking to rock a banana hammock at work or what?
Not a banana hammock at work. More thoughts of sunbathing.
Are we talking about your neighbors again?
No.
We're going to start getting calls from them. And they're going to be the real client.
He's got LARPers. He's got topless sunbathers. He's got stoners playing video games. He's living the dream.
This is quite the neighborhood. So, Dave, sorry. I mean, did you keep in mind, if you're talking, the threshold feels a little different, though, because men, historically, like men go to a pool and they're topless, right? So you're wearing a normal bathing suit that's covering your genitals. you're still, I mean, you got to keep them covered. You got to keep, the crown jewels covered. And just like a woman has to keep her private parts covered as well. But the law, to be careful here, we oftentimes conflate, and that's the issue. You conflate a woman's breasts with genitals. And like that whole, again, we can get into the Supreme Court definition of, for lack of a better word, foreplay. But are you talking about going out in public to a pool, for example, or sunbathing in a park in a more revealing swimsuit?
No, and I'm sitting across from a friend and coworker, and we're just we're getting educated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listen. These are interesting questions, and you know what, Dave? These aren't things that people sometimes think about all the time, but when you do, it's really fun to know. Well, what is the answer? Like how does that work? Like, is there a double standard here when it comes to these? Listen, it's and by the way, it's not under equal opportunity. It's all having to do with indecency laws, really. Okay. And what falls under that too.
So boobs, thumbs up. Right. Genitals, thumbs down.
Unless you're going up and massaging somebody's boobs, that is then a whole new category of wrong, like legally in public.
Thank you for listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM, presented by McDivitt Law Firm.